I'm Charlie Miner. I'm president of the Association of Sea Pines Plantation Property Owners, ASPPO as it's also known. I'm filling in for Brett, I guess, and welcome you to our agenda. When we have questions and answers at the end, Amanda and David will be walking around with microphones, so I'll call on you and wait till the microphone is there to respond, and then please tell us who you are, your first name and last name. Thanks. There we go. ARB, the Architectural Review Board, is the organization which reviews all construction within the jurisdiction of Sea Pines. Some of it's actually outside of our gates. We have 2 openings coming up on that. I would like to thank Kathy Wilcox, who served her 2nd term and is no longer eligible for reappointment. But we will be appointing 2 new members of the ARB, one for a 3-year term and one for a 1-year term. The ARB meets, it's a lot of work, it meets every week, practically every week, on Tuesday at 1 p.m. It actually goes out to the properties and takes a look at various issues. These are the members of the ARB. So if you or somebody you know is interested in being appointed to the ARB, contact Elaine Ganley at elaine@seapines.com by the end of the month. A couple months ago, I think, the resort began food and beverage service on the beach. That created a fair amount of interest on the part of some residents as to whether or not it had been properly done. We take your concerns seriously, so I appointed Barry Barth, who did, in my view, an excellent job of reviewing it. Mark Griffith covered for CSA. We listened to the various arguments that had been made and tried to evaluate them. Ultimately, we referred that to Nixon Pruitt, a law firm who we have used on other issues, and in my opinion, is one of the best in the area in terms of plantation and land use law. Barry's findings were that after a thorough review of the various issues, that the resort is in fact in compliance. I would also mention that as we talked to the resort, they were forthcoming in producing all of the documents for Barry and for Nixon Pruitt and for Mark Griffith to review. And once again, after a thorough review of whether or not they do own the land, whether or not they're in compliance with the beach requirements, whether or not they're in compliance with liquor law, we delved into each of those issues, and they had done their homework, and in our opinion, they are in compliance. Amanda has a letter here. Barry has a letter summarizing that. It's posted on our website. Also, there will be copies out there, so if anybody wants to pick up the letter, which reviews in some detail where we stood at the time he wrote the letter, I think there's been some further review since then. So that's sort of an update on the beach food services, and now I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning, everybody. As you know, my name is Amanda Jones. I'm the Director of Communications here at Community Services Associates. I'd like to go over some my agenda items that I'll be covering. I'll cover our upcoming events first, and then I'll go over our requests for board nominations for both CSA and ASPO. There we go. I had it backwards. I apologize. Sorry about that. So we'll start with ASPO. This is for our board nominations for the Association of Sea Pines Plantation Property Owners. I'd like to introduce your nominating committee members for 2016. They are Barry Barth, who's chairing that committee, Dan Westerbeck, Rich Spear, and Charlie Miner. Charlie is the president of ASPO, and per their bylaws, does sit on the nominating committee member, or is a member of the nominating committee. Because he is running for re-election, he will excuse himself from the nominating committee process. So just please be aware of that. So the remaining 3, Barry, Dan, and Rich, are who make up your nominating committee. 2016 CSA nominating committee members, David Borghese is the chair of that committee. Rich Spear, Barry Barth, and Beverly Serrell are the remaining members of that committee. So, request for board nominations. If you are interested in applying for a board position for either CSA or ASPO, we need your information. There are 3 director positions open for CSA. There are 3 director positions open for the Association of Sea Pines Plantation Property Owners. Please keep in mind these are 2 separate entities, 2 separate boards, but you can certainly run for both or one or the other. So that's certainly up to you. Interested applicants should complete a board interest form. I have those at the table outside, and the form is a quick 2-page form. It's primarily a resume, if you will, or letting us know what board you're interested in. We ask that you send that or return it back to us to CSA either by dropping it off to our building at 175 Greenwood Drive, or you can email it as well to Jeannie Pierce at csacpines.com. The forms are also available at our website. The forms are also available at our CSA office. And the board interest forms are due by August 15th. So please return them by that time frame. If for some reason you don't return it by that time frame, or you've missed the deadline, you can nominate by petition. Nomination by petition requires 50 signatures of active CSA members in good standing, and those nomination by petition are due by October 1st. So that's if you missed that August 15th deadline. Upcoming events, so we'll cover these. We have a Stormwater Community Outreach Forum. Very, very important. That was listed in the mass email that went out on Friday of last week. We are hosting a stormwater meeting for the community. It's an open meeting for all property owners. I encourage you to attend. It will be on August 10th from 10 to 11. If for some reason you can't make that meeting, please send an email to info@CSA Sea Pines with any feedback or comments that you'd like to provide in reference to stormwater concerns. So if you know of an area in your community or your neighborhood that is that undergoes repetitive flooding every time we have a very, very heavy rain, we need to know about that, because CSA is working with an engineer to actually explore our stormwater issues and concerns, and Bo Barnett, our director of maintenance, will touch more on that a bit later. So that meeting's on August 10th. We have a Hargray meeting scheduled on August 12th at 2 o'clock. Hargray, as you guys most likely know, are in the plantation installing fiber optic communication services. So if you have any questions or concerns, Hargray representatives will be here on Friday, August 12th at 2 o'clock to address those concerns and give an update as well on their progress within the community. We have our next Sea Pines Community Coffee on September 7th from 9 to 10. ASPO board meeting on September 22nd at 9. The CSA boarding meeting is September 27th at 3. Really look at this one because we have a special afternoon community coffee in October. We're going to try to see if that would still get us a large attendance as well, to try to see if that might be a better time frame for us to host this meeting or give it a shot. So in October on the 5th, which is Wednesday, we'll host this same meeting, but it will be from 5:30 to 6:30 in the afternoon. So we're going to see how that might work out for us. Meet the board candidates. That is typically also hosted in the community coffee in October, was a combined meeting of Meet the Candidates. We've separated those meetings so they can be standalone meetings. So we encourage you to come on October 19th from 9 to 10 to meet your board candidates. So that is associated with your ASPO and CSA board nomination process, and those folks will be able to speak to you about why they're interested in serving the Sea Pines community. And like I mentioned in the bottom, all of the meetings that are listed on the screen are located here at the Sea Pines Community Center. So save the dates. We have some awesome, great events coming up. Sea Pines Community Yard Sale, October 15th from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It's going to be over at the trolley parking lots on Greenwood Drive. Our space reservations begin September 6th, so keep an eye out if you're interested in signing up for a space and purchasing a table. We'll have a flu shot clinic on October 20th from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That will be here at the community center. Registration details are coming soon. A blood drive will be held on November October 3rd from 10 to 2. That'll be out here in the parking lot, and we'll be shooting some information to you guys about how to sign up for that blood drive. And then the very, very coveted event, the bonfire, super excited about that, to support the Sea Pines Forest Preserve. It's going to be over at Fish Island. That's going to be on November 11th, and ticket sales begin on October 3rd for that. So look for those coming soon. So I will pass it over to Bo, and Bo, we take questions afterwards. So no, not a problem. We'll bring the microphone over to you, and then we'll be able to take questions afterwards. So Bo will cover some agenda items for us. So I will pass it back over to Bo, and I'll take care of this for you.
Thanks, Amanda. Good morning, everybody. We finally got some rain, much needed rain. I can tell you that the turf and the plants absolutely needed it. It's 42 days with no rain, and temps above 90 degrees. It's made maintenance and grounds challenging. But we've had a couple inquiries pertaining to our flower change-outs, and I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of talk about that process and what we do, and kind of our thoughts behind how we manage that for the community, and trying to provide back to the community. I wish that I could have geraniums out there all the time, right? You know, we all know how great that looked for the RBC, and the splash of red looks phenomenal. And this year was a very good display for the RBC. We had a lot of good feedback on that. And you know, once we took those out, obviously the inquiries came in with, well, what are we doing? What are we taking these out for? They look fantastic. And the primary reason for that is heat and those 90-degree temps. And a lot of you green thumbs and gardeners out there know that, you know, if you have geraniums in full sun areas, you know, 90 to 95, 97-degree heat and full sun exposure, they start to shrivel up and look bad real fast. And that's kind of what was happening in June with a lot of our gate displays. So we had to do one of our 4 floral change outs that we do for the season. But what we like to try to do is utilize a mix of perennial and annual plant material. And the reason we do that is so we can provide back to you all, to the community. You know, annuals aren't going to do you any good. You know, that you might get a few weeks out of them, but really, in all honesty, you know, the time that you spend planting those and transplanting those, once we remove them and we stockpile them at our maintenance facility, you know, it's going to be short-lived. So, you know, we try to be conscientious of the fact that, you know, hey, how do we use the community's dollars smart from a floral rotation standpoint? So, you know, I like to use a good mix of perennial plant material as well, which we then, once we take them out, if we don't have areas to put back into the plantation, which we do on a regular basis, we find niche little pocket areas like Taylor Park or Lighthouse and plantation, and we try to utilize some of those perennials back into the gardens. But if we can't, we stockpile them at our facility, and Amanda will put out a email notification to the community for all residents to come pick up perennial plant material. So we actually have some stuff at our shop right now, and there's been an enormous amount of response to that, and people have been coming picking up some of those perennials that were actually prematurely changed out. You can see that the gates were in the process of undergoing another rotation here recently, and that's mainly due to heat stress and those 42 days of 90-plus temps. You know, the flowers really took a hard hit from that. So we want to make sure that we're ensuring that the community has a lovely display at the front gates. And while the pentas that we install now are a little small, they'll fill in with fertilizer and water, and we'll make sure that that happens. So wanted to touch on that. The other item that I have is the canvasback fence project. For anybody that uses the Ocean Gate on a regular basis, you've obviously seen a dramatic impact with the fence on the backside of Sea Pines Drive and Canvasback. It kind of splits those two roads. The fence was dilapidated. It was old. It needed to be repaired. We the Maintenance Enhancement Major Projects Committee recommended and moved this design concept forward with everyone's support, and it's really turned out to be a good project. The old Carolina brick looks fantastic with the louvers and the wood sections of the fence. It really turned out to be nice. It's going to be completed by the end of this week. PGMS Green Star Award. I think I stood up here maybe 6 or 7 months ago and had talked about the grounds department submitting for a PGMS award. It's a Green Star Award. And PGMS is the Professional Grounds Management Society. And since I came here, we actually gained membership for Sea Pines community with the anticipation that we were going to put together a very expansive submittal for a Green Star Award. And Green Star Awards are given to some of the best locations throughout the country. Disney, the Biltmore, major colleges and universities throughout the country. I mean, anything that has a very specific or niche landscape and garden have probably won a PGMS Green Star Award at some point in time in that organization's lifespan or career. So, with Amanda's help and support, which this wasn't an easy project, this was, 30 slides of beauty pictures, safety pictures, operational pictures, providing information on budgets, on operations, on number of staff. I mean, this was a healthy project for us to put together, but we wanted to submit and win an award for the community, right? We felt that Sea Pines and Sea Pines residents needed to have that type of recognition for the community we live in. And this is a national award. It's a national convention that they have in Louisville, Kentucky in October. So we'll find out if we were successful winners. But I wanted to show some pictures from that presentation that Amanda put together for us. And these are just some of the slides right out of the actual submittal itself. So it was 26 beauty. Was it 26 beauty? And then 4 safety, and I believe there was a few operational. But we really wanted to take and highlight the natural beauty of Sea Pines, which Charles Fraser is a visionary to be able to intertwine this residential and natural space. So that's really what we're trying to portray with the award submittal. And this obviously is our Christmas display where we lit all of the crepe myrtles this past December before the holidays, and it really impressive picture there. And obviously Tower Beach, it almost looks like a painting. It doesn't even look like a real picture. Sometimes the smallest insignificant areas that we have are the most impressive, right? I mean, just a simple boardwalk and a Calaboogie Sound view with some beautiful loblolly pines and blue sky. I mean, that's a great picture. Next picture, please. Our beautiful beach truss areas, our sea oats, our beaches, recreation and play. So this is what we're trying to highlight with this slide for our submittal. And then this is one of our operational photos with our crew at work. And, we had to signify and show safety. So this is a project that we worked on where we had to address a sightline issue. If you're pulling out a surf scooter and you're looking left, it was hard to see. We've since gained approval from the town to remove one of the pines that's actually obstructing your view when you're pulling out from surf scooter and looking left. So that's going to be done here in the next few weeks. But we really pruned back all this vegetation and put in a row of podocarpus for screening for the property owner, but also the main focus of this was sightlines. We had a safety issue, and we knew we needed to address it, and this was the appropriate method to address it with. So I think that's it on the photos for the Green Star. But we're excited. I hope that we can bring an award back to Hilton Head and present it to the community. That's what we're trying to do. So keep your fingers crossed. We'll find out in October. As Amanda had mentioned, we are in the process of doing a stormwater conditions assessment. We hired an engineering firm. They're coming in and doing a very deep dive on our stormwater system. So the town of Hilton Head had performed an inventory in May. So they went out and actually inventoried all of our stormwater drainage, all of our pipes, all of our structures, our lagoons. And since we've, and with the board and committee support, we have taken this a step further to hire a company to come in and look at all of our stormwater infrastructure. And this is going to help us, obviously, first and foremost, see what's wrong, right? And then be able to long-term plan and look for the future and see how these problems that we discover, hopefully there's not a lot, but we anticipate there's going to be some, at least give us a gauge as how we can best prepare for the community. And that is on, Amanda mentioned, on August 10th at 9 to 10. The engineering firm is going to be here, and we need your feedback. We need to know where these areas and problem areas are so we can try to address them. Next slide. that's all I had. I thought I had one more slide. I apologize. Have a great morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bo. So now we will have Toby come up and give us some information on some security updates for us. Toby?
Good morning. Prior to coming down this morning, I received a law enforcement notification that the public schools in Ohio start back next week, so they're all going home. Just want to bring that bit of good news, because normally I'm doom and gloom, and that was some good information. But no, I do have a little bit of update that I want to go over this morning and share with you, but I do want to make an introduction this morning. Many of you who have been in the community for a long time knew our previous office administrator, Teresa Young. Teresa was here for 34 plus years. She retired. We went through a great deal of research, and we have found a replacement, and she's here with us today. I would like to introduce her. Her name is Sarah Squires. She's in the back of the room. Sarah we stole her away from Sea Pines Resort. You were there, what, 6, 7 years? Yep. So we're happy to have Sarah. She's has a wealth of information. She knows the community, so when you come in and you meet this young lady with a British accent, that's who it is. Or you call and you think you've called the wrong location. No, it's really just Sarah. So welcome, Sarah. Couple things I would like to start out this morning. Let's start with the Greenwood Gate. We're talking about the community and the number of people that are here. Victoria provided me a spreadsheet this morning. In June, the gate fees were down quite a bit. We just were not where we were at in comparison to the previous year. Well, over the last 2 months, we have since made up for that. We went from being down roughly about 4,000 cars in June, and now we're 13,000 plus cars in comparison to last year. So the gates have been very busy. Speaking of the gate, the road repair, I don't know if the property owner that was here last week when the water main broke, that rolled her window down and screamed at me, "You couldn't pick a better day to do this?" I can control a lot of things, the water mains and Sea Pines, I cannot. We did not pick the water main to break last week, but they're doing that repair this morning. Bo told me that that will take place between 9 and around noon. We're not looking to do a lane reversal is what they're telling us, but they're going to work in just that area and go ahead and get that patch completed. So the gates are very busy. It was kind of odd knowing that in June we were down on the number of people, but the trolley program, we have moved over 90,000 people in the trolley this season. As of today, we're 23,500 people more on the trolleys this year in comparison to last year. So the trolleys, we're actually, where we were running 4 trolleys, we're now running 5 trolleys pretty much the entire day. The trolley program has been very busy, and it was a little hard to comprehend that, okay, the gate's down, but where are all these people riding the trolley? Well, we've made up for it over the last couple of months. Alligator signs. Here in the next couple of months, you're going to see some new signage going in as a result of the issue that occurred in Disney. We are replacing our current signs with a state-regulated South Carolina DNR sign. We've made these signs for our Sea Pines. It has our information on it, so when people see it, there is a number that you can call. It's the security office if they're an issue. I don't think you're going to miss them. They're bright yellow, and hopefully we're going to put them in some locations that we normally have not put them in before. We've made that offer to Sea Pines Resort on the golf course so that people are aware that the wildlife is here. I know yesterday we received a call. There were some people that were concerned. We had an alligator about 8 foot, 9 foot, eating a deer on the bank of one of the lagoons. We were not going to intervene. That's a natural process that takes place. But you will see some new signage going up here soon. Property owner passcode changeout, I mentioned this a couple of months ago. We're in the process. It's taken a little bit of time with our current software to get us ready to do a passcode changeout. It may not affect anyone in this room starting out, but our plan is here within the next month to the month and a half, we're going to contact property owners via an email or a telephone call from our office to tell you that we're going to change out your passcode. What we're doing, we're starting with the top 100 properties that have called in the most passes. And we're doing that for several reasons. Through an audit, we have found there's probably, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in passes that are being called in fraudulently in Sea Pines. We've had passcodes that have not been changed in a long time. We're going to start with the top 100 properties, and eventually we'll work our way down to the entire list. We've identified property owners who passcode was compromised. We've contacted them because we've had an issue with the people that had were in possession of the pass that were issued, and we'd call the property owner and it's like, we don't even know who these people are. We've never called a pass in for them. Well, that tells us we obviously got a problem with our passcodes. So we're going to start with the top. We're going to work our way down to the list, and eventually we'll get to everyone. But some of you may not be affected starting out, but we are going to start that process. Traffic counts, and kind of reversing back to the gates. This past week, we have completed our traffic counts. We utilize the same company the town of Hilton Head used. In June, we had a miscommunication with the company. They were supposed to have done the Sea Pines gate counts in June at the same time they did the traffic counts for the town of Hilton Head. There was a miscommunication. It didn't take place. We did those counts last week. We started on Tuesday, and it finished up on Saturday. That information will now go back to the engineers. So now we have 2 years worth of data of what's coming through our gates, what's using the exit roads. We did do a stacking and a queuing count in this last study that we did last week. So all that information will go back to the engineers to hopefully put us in a position where the engineers and the designers can better understand what we should do with the gates and to increase the flow of traffic coming in through our gates. So that has been completed. Fireworks, this is something that we deal with every year. There is not a lot of information out there where guests that drive in, they sell fireworks around our entire border. Highway 17 coming in from Charleston, exit 8 is full of fireworks stands. We've received a lot of calls here over the last couple of months in reference to people discharging fireworks. Mainly it's on the beach. We had some signs up at the front gate if you came in this morning. We've since kind of toned that down a little bit. We're going to put the sign on a much better post than putting them up on the power poles. With the drought conditions, we had a lot of concerns that there's potentially could start a fire. Majority of the fireworks are taking place out on the beach, and I will tell you it's either a property owner or it's our guests. I find it hard to believe that someone would come in from Coligny and walk all the way down the beach of Sea Pines to discharge fireworks. It's probably our guest that I would say that's using it. We do not intervene of issues that take place out on the beach. That's the responsibility of the sheriff's office. We do call them. We have gone out to the edge of the boardwalks and made the announcement it is against the law to discharge fireworks. So I would ask if you have a rental property that's beachfront, please put some kind of a notification, tell people they cannot discharge fireworks. It is against the law. Reporting incidents, I would ask, regardless of the type of call that you may be experiencing, it could be a parking issue with our renters here, the beach towels hanging over a balcony, the garbage cans in a driveway. I would ask that you please contact the security office, pick up the phone, call the security office directly, and put that notification out there. I do appreciate the email and you letting us know, but if it's an issue that I'm 4 hours before I'm checking an email, I don't want that to just kind of sit there and no one's responding to it. So please call the security office of whatever your concern or your report may be. We have people around the clock that can respond to the call. You call, we will respond. That is our job. So please, if you still want to send the email notification to me, that's fine. I do appreciate that, but I would ask for timeliness and so that we can address the issue, please call the security office directly. Calls for service, I will tell you, there's not anything that's currently major taking place within the plantation. In July, we did have 4 reported burglaries. 2 of those, nothing was stolen. The unit was left unsecured. We didn't identify anything, or the property owner didn't identify anything that was actually stolen. We did have 2 units that was reported. It was a property owner who does not live here full time. So we had a several months time span of when this place could have been entered. This one unit, they did take 3 TVs out of the location. But right now, as far as any severe issues or security issues or something that's really serious taking place in the community, we don't really have anything. I did receive a lot of calls I believe it was last Friday. We had a lot of deputies in here. We had an armed robbery that took place in the Harbortown area. The victim was supposedly robbed at gunpoint. The sheriff's office did make 2 arrests in this case. So if you saw a lot of deputy sheriffs and dogs running around, that was what that was involving. The suspects actually got out of the gates and was stopped in the Spanish Wells area, where the rest end up taking place at. So we were in here. There was a lot of activity, so I know a lot of people saw that. That's what that was in reference to. Really, if you look at the calls for service, July was our biggest month, and it is. I'm being told from the resort they're at 96% occupancy, so there's a lot of vacationers that are here right now. Our calls for service go up. We're at 12,021 calls as of 31 July. We will exceed the calls for service this year in comparison to last year, and as you can imagine, it's the improper parking. It's the issues that goes along with the renter, the ARB violations, the towels on balconies. So it's a lot of actions that takes place as a result of something taking place with a short-term renter. But other than that, things are for the most part, and I hate to even say that it's quiet because I know I'm going to end up eating those words later on. But the other thing I would like to pass is August 15th, our children start back to school here in Beaufort County. I met with the school district last week. We have, believe it or not, we have over 100 kids that ride school buses inside of Sea Pines. That's either being picked up in the morning, taken to school, or they ride the bus into Sea Pines. So we have 100 kids that utilize the transportation. We ask, please be cautious. The 15th, the kids will be out at the bus stops. We're trying to work with the school district to create spots for the kids to stand. And you know how children are. They're all over the place. They're in the roadway. They're not where they should be. And the school district is really working hard. So if you have a kid that is in your neighborhood, they don't want bus stops to be within a quarter of a mile of each other. They don't want to go a quarter of a mile and stop again and pick up another group of kids. So we're trying to work with the families. A lot of the families have to actually drive their kids to a location so that they can actually catch the bus. So we're trying to keep the stops close where they can pick up the majority of the kids at one time instead of every quarter of a mile. And it's tough. The club course area, we get calls every year about the bus going in, and then they have to back out to get back out of club course. We're trying to work with the school district on that. This year, Beaufort County School District has taken over the school bus operation, so it's going to be interesting to see how this works this year. Durham school bus system, who had the contract, is no longer in the business. Beaufort County School District is doing it again. So that starts back August 15th. And I believe that's all I have for now. So I guess we can take some questions at the end.
Thanks, Toby. One more thing to touch on really quickly. If you have not been out to the beach lately, you may have missed this, but the beach renourishment project that the town of Hilton Head is doing is now in Sea Pines. They are currently working in the area between Painted Bunning and Cedar Wax Ring Drive. That area is currently restricted for the beach renourishment construction. For updates, they are asking that you visit hiltonheadislandsc.gov. They have maps, timetables, project information. They also have this handy map that shows that we should be completed within the next 2 weeks approximately is our time frame. So they're saying about mid to early August for us. So keep that in mind, that if you are going to the beach, that process is currently between Painted Bunting Road and Cedar Wax Ring.
Actually, I talked to Scott Liggett. I'm sorry I missed this. He's telling me that they should be finished in Sea Pines on August 8th, which they're ahead of schedule. So you'll kind of see that project wrapping up. They're moving the operation. They're dragging it down the beach to start at Coligny area. So they're expected to start there August 15th. So the 8th, you should see everything taper off inside of Sea Pines.
Good news. Thanks for that update, Toby. That's even better than what we were expecting. So we will now move back to the agenda. Charlie will handle our moderation of the Q&A, and David and I will come around with microphones. Please wait for the microphone before speaking, and make sure you say your first and last name and address if you wouldn't mind. So, Charlie.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Toby. Questions? Let me start in the back there.
In the back.
Good morning. My name is Rick Bolger. I live at 8 Evergreen Lane. That's in the club course section right within the gate. I appeared here more than a year ago and commenced a discussion with various people, Toby and other people, Mr. Tucker and so on, about the safety issues at the gate, and nothing has been done. And to say I'm disappointed is an understatement. Actually, I'm kind of stunned at the irresponsibility of it. Anyone that uses that gate regularly, and in fact I have ceased calling it a gate. It's a toll booth. It's a toll plaza is what it is. Regardless, I need to know on behalf of my neighbors in the area what the specific plans are. I was told there were various studies done, there were discussions about this, there were surveyors in there. I don't want to be surprised by a new gate area forced upon me and my neighbors, as obviously there could be an impact upon the marketability of my property. That's my first question. I do not want to be surprised by anything. And if there are no plans, well then shame on you. That is a dangerous, dangerous area.
Do you want me to start to address that question first?
If you would, please. Thank you.
You pick a very difficult and complicated issue. Paul, I don't know if you wanted to comment at all on where we stand with that, but because of the Circle to Circle Committee, the potential changes in Greenwood Drive and the entry circle coming on, people coming in through Palmetto and Pope Avenue, we are right now involved in a major traffic study to try and figure out what kinds of solutions we have. The answer to the main Greenwood Gate is still a ways away, and that's an issue that a lot of people are working on, but there are no simple answers. There are property issues with land adjoining the gate area. There are capacity issues, as Toby's pointed out, with the seasonal influx of visitors. And yes, they are working on trying to come up with a solution. Unfortunately, there isn't a good solution right at the moment. And I don't know, Paul, did you want to comment at all on that? You've been heavily involved in that.
Now, only to say that the Circle to Circle Committee, which was formed by the town in 2015, has completed its work. It will make its final presentation to the town council at its next August 16th meeting. Basically, it's going to report, and the whole concept of that was to look at what needs to be done from what is now called Graco, what's food line, all the way up geographically over to Coligny Beach, that geographical area and the areas on either side of it. What's the vision of that? Biggest thing that they're talking about was traffic. So that report will be done. In fact, it's on the website right now if you want to look at it. At the end of the day, though, now Sea Pines Plantation is going to have to be working closer with the town to look at that whole corridor from Gate down to the Sea Pines Circle, corridor, along with the people, the businesses on either side of it. So I can't tell you anything more than that. We can talk at length if you want after we're done.
We've done that.
We've done what?
We've spoken at length. That's why I know it's a complex issue. That's why I haven't come back in a year.
I don't remember speaking with you. I apologize.
It's all right. No, I didn't.
Well,
And here's
I think to answer the question, it's a work in progress, but it's not the kind of progress any of us would like.
I just conclude this by saying there are immediate stopgap measures which address very specific safety issues which have not been implemented, could be implemented. There's a lack of law enforcement in that area. Current existing law is not being enforced. Enough.
Okay.
I have a question about the alcohol on the beach thing. When I first saw that in the newspaper, there were some follow-up stories, and the resort seemed to respond in the paper that they had been negotiating, was the word used in the newspaper. They had been negotiating for 2 years regarding their permission, ability, right to sell liquor on the beach the way they do it. Is that true?
Well, you've chosen to use the word negotiate.
No, that was their word in the
understand.
newspaper.
Again, I can't specifically respond to that other than when we talked to the resort about it, and again, Barry's not here. We did appoint Barry to take an in-depth look at that. I know that the resort had been considering making those changes for a considerable period of time. Whether or not there was a negotiation, I really don't know. And the findings that we have are that they are in compliance with the rules.
That's why I'm asking this question, is because I just want to make sure I got the sequence of events straight here. So what you're saying is, whether it's 2 years or not, this group knew there were discussions about this issue, which is very serious to some people, maybe not so much to other people. Regardless, this group knew and stood by and watched, apparently. After it became a done deal and people got upset and came to this group, we hired a lawyer to tell us, oh, it was okay. How much did we pay that lawyer?
The cost of the Nixon Pruitt review was several $1,000s.
Several meaning what?
3,000, I think was the number, something in that area. This group, I'm not sure who you mean by this group, if that's ASPO or CSA. We were caught by surprise. We did not know that that was going to happen. That was a mistake on the part of the resort. They probably should have told us in advance so that we could have had some input to it, but they didn't. They chose to go ahead, their business, and they did their homework, and what they did is legal. So, I mean, you can you can be disappointed, you can be angry.
Okay,
but we
I'm both.
We didn't know about it. Okay, we didn't know about it.
Is this Nixon Pruitt? Is this the same law firm that we paid all those fees for on the covenant question that came up at the annual meeting? Is it
Yes.
the same firm?
Yeah.
And the figure that day was $40,000 or something for issues regarding covenants that we couldn't talk about, but we paid a law firm $40,000 to look into. How? 80,000?
Amanda, you can probably help me with that, but I don't know the answer right offhand either. Once again, we, as ASPO and as CSA, the residential community members, we're volunteers, we're doing the best we can with a complicated and difficult issue. I think we're moving it along in a responsible manner. You may not like the choice of Nixon Pruitt. We chose Nixon Pruitt because we think they are competent in that area. They've demonstrated that. The questions that we have been reviewing are complicated. The answers to them are not easy to come by. But when you ultimately try to make changes in something that hasn't changed in 50 years or 20 years, you need to make sure that you're right on your grounds. And I think we have laid a good foundation for our next steps, and I am hopeful, as I've said in my letter, that we will come to resolution with the resort by the end of this year.
I don't know Nixon Pruitt from a hole in the wall. I'm not saying anything about the quality of their legal work. I'm just questioning the way we were approaching things. I was very uneasy with the idea that there were these secret issues that we couldn't be told about. As far as I know, there's no lawsuit, there's no threatened lawsuit. There would be nothing to justify the executive session type exemption from the open public meetings in that sense. But regardless, I just have one more question. I'm sorry to take so much time. Go ahead. I've also heard some scuttlebutt about increasing our annual fee from its current rate by some $500. I've heard different terms. Is there a fee increase being contemplated, or worse yet, already put into effect?
I think we have on numerous occasions pointed out that the the residential assessment that we have right now at roughly $1,016 doesn't cover the projected future costs. You've heard from Bo, you've heard from Toby, you've seen all of the things that we need to do in this plantation to keep it up. We are one of the lowest assessed plantations in Sea Pines. If you looked at the article in the newspaper the other day about the $1 lots, you can realize how plantations can get out of control in terms of not covering their basic costs. We're fortunate, we have a large population, we have a good staff, and we are in the process right now of trying to figure out how to balance our budget. Our increase last year was $2. That's not a viable formula for the future. Is there a plan right now? No. We're trying to develop it, and we're trying to develop it in an open forum. There was a committee formed by Dave Borghese, which looked at various alternatives and presented those. There are discussions going on between ASPO and the resort to increase the resort's participation. It is, once again, one of those difficult issues which we are trying to resolve by first figuring out how much money we need. So there was a very major study, and I wish Brett was here to describe it. Bo, maybe you're better at describing it. But basically, we had no study to figure out what it will cost to run this plantation in the future. So what do we need in terms of replacement of vehicles, of waterways, of pipes, of various things? We now have a fairly comprehensive study of that, and we now have a pretty good idea of what our long-term budget looks like. Now we need to find a way to match our revenue with our budget. Is there a plan right now? Is there some secret meeting going on? No, there's not. We have bent over backwards as both CSA and ASPO to make everything we do public. So if you attend a board meeting and anything like that is discussed, we don't go into executive session over those things. We talk about them openly. We post them on our website. We're struggling with a tough question of how does this plantation, which is now over 50 years old and has worn out in many areas, how do we get that up to the standard that it needs to be to continue it for the future? And we have good people working on it. So I think it's time to move on to another question or another questioner.
I don't disagree with anything you just said, as long as, once again, I'm not surprised. As long as it's open, as long as there is a fair chance for full discussion for the examination of the types of expenses.
I agree. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. David, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah. Thank you, Charlie. David Henderson with CSA. I just wanted to add to Charlie's comments earlier about your question on the gates and what's being done. As Charlie pointed out, there are many unknowns, but it's important that you realize that CSA is actively working on potential solutions for the gate. We know from the survey that you all took late last year that the gate was of high importance. In fact, it was probably the most important issue to you. So you will be seeing a survey sooner than later, it will be this year, that is going to dive deeper into that. So we know that the gate's an issue, but specifically what are the issues? You know, curb cuts, people stopping in the left lane, the signage, the traffic flows, et cetera. So we're in the data gathering stage. We are also looking to our daily visitors, and we're hoping to kick off that survey this week because we know that they are leaving soon. And this survey for those daily visitors is specifically looking at signage and language. So we're trying to see if there's a better way that we can, through signage, and that's the type of signs, the number of signs, the locations of signs, but also specifically what are the words on the sign. Visitor may be something to one person and mean something else to another. And so we're diving into the specifics of that language to see if we can do a better job. Toby had mentioned the traffic counts that were done this past week, and we have done that in the previous year, but this year we specifically, and Toby mentioned this, are looking at queue times and stacking distances that are needed. So if we're contemplating potential reconfigurations of the gates up there, this is very, very important information that we're going to need, and I just wanted you to know that we are actively working on that. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Carl.
Charlie, I actually have a number of questions which I'm not going to ask at this moment.
Thank you.
I'm only. I'm sure you're welcoming that. I did want to address the particular issue which is on the table right now. First of all, you made what my many classmates who became psychiatrists would call a Freudian slip, when you stated, partially, that the corporate interests, the commercial interests, are not paying their fair share. I'll just leave that on the table as it is. Secondly, you also made a statement that I'm not sure is correct, although my memory serves me differently, although up to 2 months ago it was better than it is now.
Me too.
And that has to do with the sale of alcohol on the beach. Now, notwithstanding Nixon Pruitt or whoever they are, the question I would raise is this. In the course of gaining approval illegally, and I say that with full acknowledgement of what it means, illegally from the town to do the construction of the size that they did and to reduce the parking spaces, which they did at the beach, the designation was manipulated into being called a park. If memory serves me correctly, state law does not permit the sale of liquor in a park. And I think this needs to be investigated, and if this Nixon Pruitt outfit did the earlier investigation, I'd have them do this at no charge whatsoever. And you can be certain that I will recheck that. But this is something I read more than a year ago. And I think this is a serious consideration. We have had legal counsel around here that begs the definition. And I'll stop right there.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. Ruth. Wait for your microphone.
Sorry.
Your name.
Ruth Ryan.
Okay.
Charlie, I have 3 issues that I'd like to address. A drone, I think the use of drones in the plantation, because we're so very close, has become a little bit of a danger. We were walking along a golf course, and there were kids playing, riding bikes, walking with parents, other people walking with dogs. And I don't know what happened with the drone, but whether he dropped the remote or whatever, I don't know, but it swerved. I'm short, so it wasn't near me, but it was near a tall friend who's maybe 6'2", right near his head. So I think that's I think that should be something in the covenants that that shouldn't be allowed in this congestive little area.
So, Toby, do you want to respond to that?
On the second, to kind of just go on for the second. The second is, I know your cost control or efficient, or that you're trying to do the perennials, but there's been so many comments about how drab the front gate looked after the geraniums left. We used to have glorious hibiscus, or even all the other plantations around have gorgeous color contrasts. we have purple and green. It looks like a bunch of weeds, actually. I'm sorry to say that, but I think it was kind of a poor decision, and I hope to see a better front and, both gates, South Gate.
Thanks, Ruth. I'll start with Toby on a response.
Just
or
one
did you
more.
have a third question?
3.
Okay.
Number 3. This plantation is 50 years old, as you said. It's really old, and it's showing it. And if we're following the vision of 2020, it needs a lot of grooming. There are a lot of dead trees around that could fall on anybody's head when we're walking for power walks or dog walks or bike riding. There's a dead tree right on 142, across from 142 Honor. It's on CSA property, but I think they need to be addressed. I mean, we deadhead our flowers. I think there's a lot of palmetto bushes that are full of straw-colored branches that just need a little pruning. So if we have a new landscaping service, Ocean Woods, and we're paying them top dollar, I'm sure, because they're not inexpensive. I've priced them. I think that would benefit our plantation tremendously.
Well, I know personally that when there's a problem tree on CSA property, if I give Bo's office a call, they address it one way or another.
They do. He's been wonderful. Thank God for, I'm glad you're aboard, Bo.
Toby, you want to talk about drones?
Currently, we do not have a policy for drones and sea pines. This is an issue that I've sent to our legal team to take a look at. We do not control the airspace, the FAA. So what we have done, and it's more of an unwritten rule, if someone is operating a drone on CSA common space, we tell them it's not allowed, that we ask them to remove it. If you own your own private property and you want to fly a drone in your backyard, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that because we don't control the airspace. I know the resort uses a lot of drones in some of their videos. CSA hired a company that used a drone to fly. They contact us, we let them know, that please do it at daylight. We had some that was operating in the evening times. The drone issue is really the harbor town. I don't know what the attraction is, but we have more calls in harbor town of people flying drones than we do probably anywhere else. But if it's CSA common space or resort property, we tell them they cannot operate it on that private property. They got to go somewhere else. So that's currently where we're at. Well, I don't think the resort allows any drone operation on their property as well, and that's the stance we pretty much have taken. And we tell them the property space that we control, we tell them you can't operate it, you have to leave, and it becomes a trespassing issue, since I can't really enforce the airspace.
So you can't put it in the covenant?
I don't think that's going to be an option for us because that's an FAA federally regulated. And I will tell you, drones are not just a problem in sea pines. It's a nationwide issue that's going on.
Just make a quick comment on covenants. We have plenty of those, thousands of pages. Covenants can only be amended by a vote of the membership, a 75% positive vote of what would account for basically a quorum of the voters. We are in the process of taking a look at what kinds of things are important enough to put before the voters and hope to do that again early next year with a series of improvements. One of the things we struggle with, and we all struggle with it, is our property rights. What rights do you have on your property and what do your neighbor's rights entail? So if you have a dilapidated house next to you and it's depressing your property value or making your neighborhood ugly, there are limits within the covenants as to what we can do, very, very limited. Those are things that we're looking at possibly changing. Of course, if you happen to be the owner of that property and we tell you have to do something, you may not be real happy about that. So the issue of property rights is a tough one within Sea Pines because as a country and as a community, we honor people's property rights, but we also feel strongly that they have a community responsibility to uphold the standards of our community, and that's where we run into the rub of interpretation. I'm going to take another question. Yeah. The flowers. Wait, go ahead.
Hi. There's nobody that bears the burden of how our gates look more than me. Let me start off by saying that. I mean, I'm very passionate about floriculture and plants, as you all know, and horticulture, and trying to provide those sustainable practices in a mix of annuals and perennials for the community. sometimes those perennial plant materials don't have as showy flowers as, annual displays do. I recognize that, but not that is being an excuse for us having showy displays. We recognize the fact that there were issues, so we are in the process of taking those out right now at the gates, which is free of charge to the community. We're not, CSA or property owners aren't being charged for those additional rotations that are happening now. And we're actually in the process of putting in some pentas. Now they're kind of small, but they're actually going in now, and they should show a little bit more color. But the sustainable practices that we use are really to try to give back. But at the end of the day, we need to provide showy, vibrant displays at the gates. And trust me, I'm all for that. So I apologize that we weren't as showy and we had that drought that kind of set us back. But any areas that we have from a maintenance standpoint, whether it's tree pruning, just regular pruning, shearing, I'll be happy to get with you, Ms. Ruth, after the meeting. And if you give me those areas, we'll be happy to get them addressed for you.
And one more comment really quickly. If you guys do have a dead tree, anything like that, please call maintenance and let us know about it, if it's so we can be aware and put it on the list. We do track, and Bo has staff that on a regular basis goes through the entire plantation, but it is limited staff, so please be our eyes for us and make that call, or shoot us an email, info@csacpines.com, so we can get that looked at for you.
Sue. David.
David has the mic for you.
Sue Emke. I only had one comment until everybody else asked theirs. The first one was, and it's directed to Amanda. I had a friend that went over to try and get a nomination ballot and asked at the front desk who knew nothing about them, and there were no forms. So maybe you could put some forms up there. That was my comment. But talking about increasing the annual fee, the one comment was, we need it. There are things we want to do. As my husband says, there's a difference between wants and needs. So let's make sure it's things either need and want. And then along with that was Dave Borghesi's committee was tasked with looking at ways to raise revenue, and only came up with raising revenue on the residents. It never looked at the commercial interests. So that's my comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can comment on Dave's committee. Dave is a stickler for defining a committee and its role, and he stuck with that, and that was the charge of that particular committee. That doesn't mean that we aren't looking at all other potential sources of revenue, and there are really basically three other sources of revenue. There are the resort and commercial assessments, and there's the gate fee. And those are things that I think need to be addressed. They also require, they are also defined in the covenants, and by agreement. For example, the gate fee is under an agreement right now that expires in 2017. So any change to the gate fee is precluded before that particular time. But that may be something that we need to do, and then how do we do it? And then when you do it, do you need a referendum to get it approved? So,
Charlie, we have a question over here.
Oh, okay, sure.
Hi. Speaking of revenue.
Name?
Mike Lawrence, I'm sorry.
Hi, Mike.
Speaking of revenue, how are we doing on tracking down the VBRO properties, selling gate passes, accommodations taxes, and that whole thing?
Well, Toby addressed that to a degree. Do you want to say something more on that?
In regards to the VRBO, that is something that we do on a weekly basis. I don't know if you know, VRBO or Airbnb is the largest, biggest website of short-term rentals out there. That is something that we look at on a regular basis. We have signed up probably 400 plus properties over the last couple of years of property owners who rent their property themselves. Currently, we have 416 properties listed as a property owner rents it themselves. So that is something that we are actively doing. All those people, same property owner as well as a rental company, still pays the same fee of $15 a week per pass.
So you're able to identify which of their passes are called in are renters and charge for it. Great,
The
thank you.
property owner has two different accounts. If they have a rental property, they order those passes underneath their rental account, and they're billed once a month for all those rental passes.
I'm going to go to Carl over on that side.
My name is Carl Becker. I live at 31 Hearthwood Drive. I want to just express a concern. My wife received an email from something called Voices of Sea Pines Property Owners, which said if you are concerned with issues that affect residential owners, you will want to register for an account with this organization. My wife went to register. She was turned down. She got an email headlined, "Account declined by an administrator." It said, "For questions about this decision, please contact one of our community website administrators." She did. She asked why she was turned down. The response says, and I quote, "As our website states, Voices of Sea Pines reserves the right to deny access to any individual. All decisions are final and not open to appeal, discussion, or debate," close quote. I spent the last 10 years working with ASPO and CSA on legal matters, and I can only think of one reason that my wife was turned down, because she's my wife, and I have been associated with the villains, ASPO and CSA. I just bring this to your attention because I find it a little upsetting. Over the last 10 years, there has been a great move for transparency and openness by CSA and ASPO. Their meetings are open. They respond to your questions. I find it a little appalling that we now have a community group that will not really open up. My wife has opinions. They are not my opinions. And I find it really appalling that she has been turned down for this vocal forum. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Trying to look at Becky. Just trying to pick on people that have for the first time.
No, I understand.
My name is Becky Pardue. I live on South Beach Lagoon Road. I've lived here for 25 years. I've been visiting since 1973. And I'd like to ditto what Carl said. I was turned down too. I think, first of all, the name should be changed to Voice of Sea Pines, not Voices. But that's not the reason I wanted to stand up. I see a difference in the complexion of our community over the last few years, and it really upsets me because I come to these meetings and all I hear are people complaining. We started a POA in our neighborhood in 2009, and I was the president until this year. I really didn't know much about the politics of Sea Pines, but I've come to learn a lot because I felt that it was my responsibility. And I've also realized when we started our POA, there was not one board member who lived east of Sea Pines Drive from the Ocean Gate to South Beach. So the people living on the ocean had no representation at all. And I feel like that not many people in this room probably live east of Sea Pines Drive. Unfortunately, most of these people east of Sea Pines Drive are second homeowners. They don't get as involved as maybe some other people do. But I want to tell you a little story about when we first moved here. The people in Wexford, the residents of Wexford, were fighting all the time. Their property values went down very dramatically. There was a woman who stood out on 278 with a sign during the day, just about all that was going on, and nobody wanted to live there anymore. What I have found with CSA and ASPO is that I don't always agree with what they do, but when I reach out and ask for help or bring up a topic, I get great response. I've served on the maintenance committee, and let me tell you, we have got to raise our fees in here. With one of the lowest, we just don't have the money. Now, the boards are doing everything they can to figure out how to raise revenue, but for any of you all who don't feel like that you can pay just a little more to help us out, I just have such a problem with this. I mean, why do you always want somebody else to pay? That's our whole country now. Let's let somebody else pay for it. But please, folks, these guys are doing the very best they can. If you don't agree, that's one thing. But to come in this room every month and just stand up and attack them is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Carl. Right. Here you come.
Thank you. The two Carls and Becky have been known to disagree in the past, and undoubtedly will in the future, but I absolutely subscribe to their comments regarding any alleged exclusivity of access to the voices. I think it's counterproductive and inappropriate. About the financial things which were just raised, part of running an organization, and I've never run a business, is controlling costs. Now, the question I have has to do with some of the data we were presented regarding the trolley. I believe the data were that there were 90,000 trolley riders. How much per rider are we paying? What is the total trolley budget? Is it of the order of $500,000?
Yeah.
So we're paying $5 to $6 per rider for the trolley service, when allegedly the increase in the gate fee by $1 was to pay for that.
Part of that.
And that would require an enormous increase, one which we couldn't handle whatsoever, with respect to paying for this. Now let's get real, folks. You know, math starts in grade school, and addition and subtraction still have a virtue. And I think we have to address these things. Not saying that the well is bottomless, but let's put a bottom on the well so that we don't lose the water.
Yeah, I agree. I ran corporations, budgets, mergers and acquisitions. I fully appreciate the importance of doing your cost analysis and getting your costs down to the absolute minimum that you can for an efficient operation. I also believe in benchmarking against other organizations to see if they have better ideas to do that. That's one of the reasons that we did the comprehensive study on what it is we need to spend. And I think we have some dark problems in our future. I think our lagoons are one of those that they haven't been dealt with in years. The engineering study, I think, that's going to come forward is going to be an eye-opener in terms of how serious some of the problems are with our lagoons in terms of their stormwater maintenance and just the depth and viability of the lagoon itself. So we'll see. That's a study that we're going for. Yes?
Hi, I have a question for Toby.
Your name?
Dana Advocate of Deer Run Lane. So this summer, I'm glad to hear that VBRO is coming a little bit under control, but I have to say that I've noticed a difference just on our road between the homes that are rented through VBRO and the homes that are rented through rental companies. The ones that are on VBRO typically have a lot more minivans parked in the front and a lot more people. And who knows who the trolley riders are, but I would say that there's some sort of correlation between the extra people in homes and the number of trolley riders. It's been a bit of a festival atmosphere this summer with bikes all over the place and cars all over the place. And I think maybe that's the next step with getting control of how many people are actually in homes and how, who's using the trolley and all the bike paths.
Thanks, Dan. We have a question over here.
My name is George Russell. I live on Harleston Green. I believe we have a motel operating on Heritage Road. I've wondered, we've stopped several times while the construction was going on and discovered there were 7 bedrooms. We thought, uh-oh. And sure enough, just recently we counted as many as 7 cars in front of that building. There's an empty lot next door. During the construction, I asked one of the workmen what they were going to do with the empty lot, which had been cleared, and he said they would probably build another building. Of course, that's secondhand information. He may not really know. But I think we need a comment on that situation. Our covenants should be broad enough to limit that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Any hands I'm missing?
We have one back here, Charlie. Charlie, one back here.
Oh, you were behind the post.
Hi. First, I want to thank you about the Fraser Circle. I think it's a great improvement going to single lane, and also the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit is terrific. The unfortunate thing is, and I think this can be easily remedied, when you come off the circle, you stare at a sign that says, speed up to double that. Right away, even before the new crossing there for the leisure trail. If we just move those signs back, the speed limit signs of 35 mile an hour on Greenwood and the 30 on the other way on Greenwood, past like the S and past the leisure trail, then people won't say, oh, they're coming off 15, not that they're driving 15, but hopefully if they're behind me, they are, and then they don't need to speed up at double the speed. That would be a really great improvement there, you know, in addition to what has already been done with the plantings and all. I don't need a comment. You can make the decision, you know, if you want to do that. The other thing...
I just wanted to say thank you for the feedback. And we worked with the town engineer and where we needed to put all the signage as it relates to legal ramifications. So we can address that back with the town engineer on moving that signage.
Because I don't think it
make that
matters if
recommendation.
somebody continues going 15 until
I understand what you're
they
saying.
pass the leisure trail and the S curves and then start to go 35.
We can pose that question to them, absolutely.
So you can take care of that. Now, there's another thing that can be easily remedied. It's the bicycle entrance gates. Unfortunately, and my husband, both of us had a close call. There's an electric eye. I don't know if any of you do go in and out of the Sea Pines plantation, and we have these gates that open and close. You have to put in a keypad number when you leave, so that you can get back in using that code. Well, the electric eye is only on one side, and I guess they must be timed so that when somebody goes through, they close quickly so no one can sneak in. But unfortunately, if there's like a big lineup and some people are coming in, it's starting to close. And then if you're on the wrong side of the electric eye, as we discovered, the gate closed on our bicycle because we weren't in the eye. So, you know, knowing that there's children towed in these little carts behind bicycles, it would behoove us to put the eyes on both sides of the 3 gates so that there's no problem. Okay. Another suggestion, this would be for Bo, is I've noticed in the past few years we've gone to more of using machines to pick up the brush at the CSA areas. It just would be a great help if after they use the front end loader and put it in the dump truck, if they could just sweep the street back in the debris that has fallen back in, or have a blower on the truck and just blow it off. That might be a good thing to do on their pickup days. Another suggestion I have is Tower Beach, and I'm sorry if any of you think these are complaints. These are just suggestions, and the point is that people can take them up or not. Tower Beach, we have car parking, and we have a lot of people biking in. Now, in the past, we had 2 times the gates were damaged at $1,000 a piece by bicyclists, okay? I don't know what the issue was with the gate a few weeks ago, but it was obviously not working. the thing is, there's cars parked in there, there's people who ride bicycles in with these big carts or have their chairs on the back, and they can easily damage cars and all. There's a simple solution. There's a second boardwalk past the tower. Have all bicycles go through that entrance and use that boardwalk, and have no bicycles on the main boardwalk where there's many children. And a lot of these bikers, do not walk their bikes on that thing to begin with. They have, a lot of them have fishing poles and big things attached to their cars, and just eliminate that parking there in the gazebo entrance. There's still bike parking on the other side there, and all the bikes can be parked over there. And one other suggestion, when you rent the Tower Beach facility, it might be a good idea if maintenance could just check the bathrooms and the garbage cans the next morning, because sometimes there's no paper at least in the women's room, and the garbage is overflowing. And it might be just something that can be done. Okay? And as far as, people being upset about the toll booth at Greenwood, there's a yield sign there. Are you going to enforce it or not? If you're not going to enforce it, take it down. And let's just have a free-for-all. But the yield sign is there. Either you yield or you don't. You don't yield, you get a ticket. Or you pull somebody over and say, oh, gee, yield. The first time somebody sees that you're enforcing the yield, there's not going to be a problem anymore. And it's a simple solution. If you don't want to yield, make them stop. Put a speed bump in. And I don't want to hear whining. The speed, oh, God forbid, the few people that might complain who don't want the speed bump. Slow down. What's the matter? Come on.
Thank you.
I'm really...
Bill Schroeder, I live on Water Oak. Some of the comments I had already been made about the signage coming on Greenwood, the bicycles. Actually, one of the things I'd like to see on the bike change on the bike pass is you have keypads on both sides. Right now, people are going out, pushing that green button, coming back in, and have no idea what that code is. So if you have pad on both sides, they have to push that button. They know what the code is coming in on both sides. The other thing about bicycles, I'd like to see bicycles. I know there's a gate fee, $6 and $1 per bike, attached to them. There should be some way that people who are driving from 5 miles away, 9 miles away, coming to these gates, that want to go to the lighthouse, want to go to the nature preserve. Some way there should be able to put up a fee at these gates so that bicycles from the outside can come in.
Yeah, you and I are on the same side on that one, but that's a tough issue. Again, we're looking at that, and we're looking at basically how we deal with the bike traffic from a safety standpoint within the plantation, access, how you would staff that gate, whether you'd have automated controls there that they'd put in a credit card or something to charge out. We're looking at those alternatives right now, and hopefully we'll come up with an answer, because bikes are the way people like to travel now.
Just a brief comment, Mr. Minor. My name is Marjorie Mims, and I have been here in Sea Pines for a number of years. This gentleman that made the remark about our possible increase of $500 on our yearly assessment, will that projection figure of 2017 budget, will it be presented prior to we receiving it here at one of these meetings?
Yes.
Thank you so very much. It's very courteous.
It'll not only be presented, it'll probably be voted on. How we do that is going to be a tricky traverse. And that's, for those of you who want to run for the board, that's something you can look forward to in 2017. I would make one comment that it is amazing statistically how many residential property owners who run for these boards only stay for one term. It is a lot of work, and it's appropriate because there is a lot of work to be done. I think that one of the things I would like to reiterate, and I've said before, is that I'm proud to represent the staff that we have assembled to run this plantation through CSA. I think Brett Martin and the team he has put together are light years ahead of where we were a few years ago. We all have stories of things that happened years ago, and now with somebody as knowledgeable as Bo, as conscientious as Brett, as outgoing as Amanda, and as capable as the other ones are, I think we have now put together an organization which, when we put together our budget, it'll be a real budget, and when we operate the plantation, it'll be operated appropriately. So I just think we have a real round of thanks to Brett and his team. That's it.